And on the line with us is our old buddy Phil Ittner, the veteran war correspondent based out of Kyiv, Ukraine, and host of the brilliant On the Edge podcast. If you're not already subscribing to it, do so. You will be glad that you did. Philip Ittner, Ittner Philip on YouTube. It's backwards. But the video blog is also over on YouTube under Philip Ittner. Phil, welcome back to the program. How are you and how is Ukraine?
Well, thank you, Tom. I'm fine. I'm actually preparing to leave for the first time in about a year to go and cast my ballot. So this time next week, I'll probably be en route back to Michigan, where I hope maybe it'll do some good. The people of Ukraine, in general, are struggling through. There's deep concern about the oncoming fall and winter months, especially with the electrical situation. There's another story that is also making the rounds and reverberating here in Ukraine, and that is the death of a Ukrainian journalist in a Russian prison. Victoria Rushina was her name, and she was reporting in what became the occupied territories of Ukraine. She was put in a Russian prison, and with no crime whatsoever except for being a journalist, and apparently went on a hunger strike, and the Russians let her die. And the country is grieving.
This is what Donald Trump's best friend Vladimir Putin does. I mean,
that's right.
Kill journalists.
That's right.
That's so unfortunate.
Very promising young woman, and it is. The toll on this country just continues to mount and mount and mount. Not that they're anywhere near talking about surrendering or capitulating, much as maybe Donald Trump will try and force down their throats if he should get back into office. But this is tough. This is a very difficult situation, and the people here are suffering. President Zelensky is making the rounds in Europe. He is carrying with him what he calls a victory plan, a way to end the war in the next year, in 2025, with a victorious, and we don't know exactly what that definition is, but nevertheless, he is calling it a victory plan. He is bringing it to the various capitals in Europe. He is finding at least some open ears. We don't know the details of it, and obviously, nor should we, because it's a battle plan. But he is indeed knocking on doors, showing them this plan, and trying to push forward the idea that this is not a forever war. This is a war that can be won if only the West would ratchet up its full support, or ratchet up its support for Ukraine in terms of weapons.
Yeah. I mean, we're providing Israel with bombs that they're using outside of Israel. They're bombing Lebanon now.
Yeah.
And with our bombs, we know that now for a fact. The Guardian reporting it this morning. Apparently with no objections from our government. Why can't Ukraine use our weaponry outside of Ukraine? I just don't get it. Do you?
Yeah, that has not gone unnoticed, as you can imagine. Mm-hmm. And not only why can't they strike further into Russia, but Israel has the Iron Dome. Why does Ukraine not have?
Which is American-made, by the way, is it not?
Well, its origins are American-made from the kind of Patriot system. Yeah. It's a family of missiles, air defense missiles. I think the actual system in Israel is built by Israel with the technology that they got from us. Mm-hmm. But Ukrainians are asking, as they are nightly being attacked, why do we not have more robust air defense? Right. And then you mentioned obviously being able to strike into Russia. Why can Israel strike around the region, but Ukraine can't defend itself from planes that will drop these enormous, what are called glide bombs they'll do it from inside Russia's territory, drop the munition, and it glides into Ukrainian territory and then goes and it has a massive warhead on it and causes extremely terrifying explosions. The single largest explosion or munition has been used here, non-nuclear, has been used here in Ukraine to devastating results. And then there's another issue as well that seems to be going completely unnoticed in the West. We have covered it here at On the Edge, but it is the horrific situation in the town of Kherson in southern Ukraine, where they are literally being hunted by drones. The drone operators will be on the other side of the river in Russian-occupied Ukrainian territory using drones to hunt human beings, and it is now suspected that they are doing this on purpose in order to gain experience. They're practicing on killing people with drones by striking at civilians, and it's not. This has been well documented, but it's getting very short shrift.
That's a war crime.
West.
Intentionally killing civilians is a war crime.
They are and Tom, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. It's so terrifying that what they will do is they will sometimes use one drone to blast open the window, and they're practicing for the combat zone. It's believed by many, or it's either that or it's just
terror.
Operators.
Yes, terrorism.
Terror. They'll hit a window, and then a second drone will fly through the window and attack the civilian family inside.
Wow.
And it's absolutely reprehensible, and we are losing time to deal with this situation. We could put in electronic jammers. We could put in more air defense. Because in a very short period of time, the leaves are going to be off the trees, and there will be no cover. For now, civilians run from tree to tree to tree because it's obstructed from the sky. When those leaves are gone very soon in fall, there's going to be no cover. Kherson is an issue that needs to be dealt with, not only for the crimes that are being committed, and those need to be pursued and prosecuted, but we need to get some help in there quick, because you're going to be jailed up in your houses, afraid to go out on the street, because what the people of Kherson are calling it, the Russians are conducting a human safari, quote unquote. I mean, it's reprehensible behavior, and we need to step up.
Yeah. It does the fact that is about the size of Texas play, do you think, any role in why it's so much harder to defend Ukraine than Israel?
I don't know if the geographical size of Ukraine is the reason why it's so much. I mean, obviously they want to protect the capital. That makes sense. You have a situation where you have towns and cities in the far west of Ukraine that are protected because of the distance that anything that's coming to hit them has to go through, and so the Ukrainians get several shots at it to defend. Odessa, being the vital port city that it is, it gets disproportional protection. But all the cities that exist along the battle lines, and that is along the river there, and also Kharkiv, those are all under intense attack. And it is possible. We could do that. We could protect those cities and provide more air defense. We're still doing this.
We're slow walking it.
Strategy of non escalation. There's so much fear that Russia will respond, disproportionately should we cross this red line or that red line. But then every time they do it, I mean, there are Ukrainian troops in Kursk right now inside Russia itself. The Ukrainians are continually asking. We cross Putin's red lines all the time. Nothing happens. He's a bully. But we in the West, and certainly in D.C., seem to be terrified of an escalation.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And
Phil,
you don't want to play chicken with this stuff, but at the same time, you can't let a bully be a bully.
Amen. I had this a minute here, but I saw a headline earlier in the week that said Russia has suffered more casualties in Ukraine than all other conflicts. It can't be as high as World War II was, but
No, since World War II. If we're talking about the same study, they have lost more in Ukraine than any conflict that they've been involved with post World War II.
Right.
Notably, of course, Afghanistan. But they had fighter pilots in Korea. They engaged in a lot of bush wars around the world during the Cold War. They were in Vietnam. Yeah, they were. They had Spetsnaz or special forces inside Vietnam. Yeah, it's true. They have lost more people in this war than any war that they fought since World War II. But all of those wars have been far. I mean, even the biggest war they engaged in Afghanistan was very far away from Moscow, and people felt it was very detached. Ukraine is integral to their sense of empire, so they're willing to bear the brunt of losing all these casualties as long as the empire is restored. This is a colonial war, and Moscow is seeking to restore not just the Soviet Union, but the old Russian Empire. And it's a mentality that should be put to rest. Of course, Americans don't like empire, especially when we engage in it ourselves. But we are uncomfortable with the concept of empire. Russians love it and they demand it.
Yeah,
so they'll take the casualties if the empire can come back. Yeah.
I get it. Phil Ittner, check out his blog, On the Edge. It's brilliant. Phil, thanks so much for dropping by.